Chapter 14. Her Vow. The dreams hadn't stopped. Kalea took a walk through the forest in her chemise, without shoes. She walked until the soft light of dawn illuminated the mist and dew. The pine needles prickled her feet with a sensation all too real, along with the wet, shimmering walls passing over her in the low, drifting cloud. She walked until she found Dorhen, huddled against a tree in a ball of sombre misery. She placed her shaky hand on his shoulder. She must have broken his heart last night with her cruel stupidity. His dull eyes acknowledged her. They didn't catch the dim light like they usually did. He didn't smile either. He didn't speak. A frown drew his face long. His eyelid rims might have been reddened, but it was hard to tell for sure in the cloudy morning light. She fell on him, her arms wrapping around him, her chin resting on his shoulder. He didn't hug back.
Why are you torturing me every night?
She opened her mouth for a counter-question, and a sob burst out before the words. Oh, Dorhen! She put her hand on his head. She knew the texture of his hair under her hand from the dreams alone. She'd never ventured to touch him on her own in the waking world, not even last night when he had given her the perfect opportunity. She pulled back to look at his face. His frown persisted. He scowled at her. I can't do it. She stroked the side of his face, handsome as ever, regardless of his anger, especially while angry. As an elf, he didn't have the ability to grow a beard, but he had hair resembling soft, smooth sideburns, growing along his face in front of his ears. She couldn't control her quivering lips, but she had important things to tell him. Maybe her body language could speak for her. She kissed him. He didn't kiss back. You don't understand the struggle I have, she said, forcing the words out. I want to tell you. She kissed him again. He gradually gave in and kissed her back, and to the ground they went again, like in the dreams. He lay on the ground and allowed her to lean over and pull his undershirt open to trail kisses down his neck and chest. The smell of his skin, she'd missed it.
What do you want from me?
He asked in the same lifeless voice, willing to partake, yet playing a dead weight. I'm sorry, she said, taking her lips off his navel. If we could talk. She moved to resume her task, but popped her head up again. Lying flat with his arms out to the sides, he stared at the tree canopy. Do you not want to?
It's not about my wanting. I live to serve you, so take what you want.
Dorhen. Her hand was poised on his codpiece laces, eager to rip them open like he had let her do in the dreams. The bulge under her hand hardened, which she had been fascinated to see in those dreams. She took her hand away. Isn't this what he wanted? The trees around them crumbled like sand sculptures. The light faded. Dorhen faded. She woke up. Another dream? In fact, in the recent strange dreams, she awakened each time at the moment when something confused her, usually the real, yet surreal feeling of the situation. As always, her blood roared and tingled with yearning. She would remember the dream and its acute sensory detail for a good long time, but like normal dreams, they'd fade. I have to talk to him. She got out of bed, dressed, and put on her novice's veil. Good morning, Kalea, Joy said, walking by with some extra strength in her gait. Good morning. Kalea gawked at her confident stroll out the door. Giving up her food to Joy at supper must have been paying off. Kalea's balance and energy had also returned today, thanks to Dorhen, who'd been sweet enough to catch and cook that fish for her. She beat her sisters to the kitchen for breakfast, like she had been doing for a few days, and grabbed her own bowl of oats before it could be served. She divided her portion between Joy and Rose's bowls and washed her own. Skipping breakfast, she went straight outside to do the laundry. At the stream, she scrubbed the garments, beat them with her bat, and frequently lifted her eyes to scan the forest for Dorhen. Would he bring another fish? Dorhen, she said after an hour. Are you there? No answer. Dorhen. Her voice echoed a long way through the trees. A new kind of nausea churned her stomach as she returned to her work. Her scrubbing became absent-minded and her arm weakened while using the washing bat. The chore of scanning the stretch of thin forest for Dorhen distracted her from her real duty. He wasn't there. No feelings of being watched either. Back in the courtyard, she hung the laundry as Sister Ghani chatted away about Kalea's upcoming vow ceremony. With the old woman's voice babbling on and on in the background, she watched the corners and shadows for signs of him. "I'm going to keep washing clothes," she said when Sister Ghani asked what her area of expertise would be as a full sister of sorrow. A lot of options would be laid before her. If she favoured singing, she could join the Full Sisters choir group. Or she could teach reading, writing and religion to the children in Tintilly. She could learn how to paint and add fantastic murals to their convent. Washing is what I do best. She slogged off toward the study hall where she practised her writing. She sat at the long table amongst several full Vestals who studied and wrote, and opened her prayer book beside her journal to copy the texts. She absent-mindedly dipped her quill into the inkwell and failed to run the tip over the edge to eliminate excess ink. Terrible-looking pools of ink ran from the quill here and there, and some of the blotches ran together, obscuring the sentences into gibberish dancing around under her stare. She blinked her eyes, and the movement stopped, leaving her with blotted shapes so wet they ran and mingled with each other until a face appeared, composed from the dark and light areas of the mess she'd made. The face smiled at her. She slammed the book closed, splattering dots of ink onto the table. About 20 veiled heads popped up, and stern old faces turned to glare at her. "Sorry, sisters," Kalea said. "My hand slipped." The veiled heads bowed again over their own prayer books. An hour later, she stood in the seamstress's room getting measured for her official habit. "I'll do the best I can," the sister who specialised in sewing said. "Your ceremony has been ordered at such short notice. No guarantees it'll be finished in time, but at least you'll have it by the end of the—" Kalea stared out the window, with her arms held out to the sides. Dorhen had lain on the ground in the same pose in her dream this morning, his face so drawn and resigned.
"Take what you want."
"Kalea!" She jumped. "Yes?" "Put your arms down." "Oh." She dropped them. "I also said there might be an extra habit in the closet you can take. I'm sure it's too big, though. Put it on and I'll pin it on you." "Yes, ma'am." She managed not to dream about him the next night, and when she rushed out to the stream with her loaded basket, calling for him, he didn't show himself. He didn't show in the courtyard either. He remained absent during all the long hours she spent alone. She went to supper, relinquished her food, prayed and retired to bed. No dreams. She woke up, prayed, relinquished her breakfast, went to the stream with a light load against Sister Ghani's protests that there was no need, and spent the time alone. Dorhen didn't come. She returned, relinquished her supper, though she did take a bite because by now she felt faint off and on, prayed, fell asleep. The third day since last seeing Dorhen, she awoke, prayed, washed clothes, prayed, gave up her supper, and then the time came to rehearse her rituals.
"Are you listening?"
Father Liam asked.
"Are you listening, Kalea?"
"Sorry, yes, what were you saying?" He motioned to a cushion they'd set before the altar.
"You'll sit here all day tomorrow in contemplation, and the ceremony will happen at dusk. Let's go over your speech."
After rehearsal, Kalea crept down to the cellar to see if Dorhen lurked around there. Once again, she brought a candle swiped from the One Creator's altar to see in the dense underground shadow. Her fishbone still littered the floor, pillaged by ants, some of which continued the feast. But he must have collected his glowing stone necklace before leaving, because she found no sign of it near the wall racks where it had skidded after she rudely batted it out of his hand. "Dorhen," she whispered. It was worth a try. She waited in the silence for his voice or any indication of movement. A breath or clothing shifting. Nothing except her own heartbeat. What have I done? He's really gone this time. She put the candle down and stood by the barrel, the place where he kissed her. Their first kiss. She hugged herself. She hadn't thought to bring a cloak to cover her arms. Dorhen, she whispered again, I'm sorry. She closed her eyes and kept them closed, as if he'd appear at her will whenever she opened them again. I changed my mind. I don't want to be a vestal. I want to be a woman. She opened her eyes again slowly. The illuminated floor around her stayed empty. No shadows to hint at someone joining her in her orb of light. No blue light appeared to merge with hers. She pulled the veil off her head. I mean it. She untied her belt and dropped it to the floor, followed by her grey, open-sided novice to bard. Would you like me to go further? She sat on the barrel and waited. She leaned back on her hands and opened her knees. You're a stubborn boy, you know that. She closed her eyes again. I wouldn't have come here if I wasn't positive you'd follow me, that you've been stalking me. She opened her eyes again, still alone. She closed her mouth and listened. She listened as hard as she could. Clack, clatter! She jumped and shrieked. A rat ran along the wall in the faint outskirts of her candlelight. She huffed out the air she'd sucked in. Back upstairs, Kalea sat in the bathtub and closed her eyes as a handful of other novices recited prayers over her in honour of her becoming a vestal. The bath had been prepared for this special occasion, with spices like jasmine and clover, and dried rose petals floated on the water. Several extra candles lit the room, standing tall and stiff like the pine forest outside. Sister Scupley led the ritual, reciting certain lines and periodically dipping a cup in a bowl of blessed water to pour over Kalea's head. A shock of cold hit her scalp and separated into various cold streams on the way down, contrasting with the steamy water engulfing her body. Whenever needed, Kalea added her own words to the chanting, having memorized them for the last 2 days. After the chanting, she stood up in the bath and allowed 2 other novices to rub fragrant sacred oils all over her body, a cleansing ritual to prepare her for her symbolic marriage to the one Creator. During the oiling process, she recited more lines she'd practiced. The lines were in an ancient language. For the most part, she had no idea what she was saying, except for a vague impression after reading a translation earlier. The words were still drivel spilling out of her mouth. Her eyes kept flicking to the window, the one Dorhen had confessed to peeping through to watch her bathe last week. Glancing at the window turned to staring during her recital. The other novice's hand slicked across her body, around her legs and over her breasts. The window. She settled her eyes there. When they finished that portion of the ritual, she lowered back into the tub and dunked her head. The novices finished their chanting with an amen and a curtsy, then filed out of the room one by one. Sister Scupley left first, and Joy hung around last to help her dry off. Kalea didn't speak to Joy after the chanting ended. Joy knew, like they all did, about this sacred ritual in which Kalea should be in deep contemplation. Better if they didn't talk. On a normal evening, Joy would have sensed her mood, and Kalea might have spilled all of her pent-up thoughts and confusions at the other girl's prodding. As Joy rubbed her with a towel, Kalea focused on the window again. The black glass showed reflected candlelight and her own naked body in a foggy, warped abstraction. Nonetheless, she pierced it with her eyes, trying to send a silent message to whoever might be looking through from the other side. After the bathing ritual, she tucked herself into bed and spent a long while awake in the dark. Her last night in the novice's dorm. Her last night as a novice. Her last night to change her mind. Where would she go if she did change her mind? Nowhere. She couldn't go back to her parents. They were the ones who decided to put her in here. She was supposed to take the vows. Her destiny had been laid out for her. She closed her eyes and couldn't keep the images of Dorhen away. How casually he'd strolled into her life and wrecked everything. And now, on the night before her initiation, the one Creator turned out to be the last person she could focus on. If she concentrated hard enough, Could she see Dorhen in another dream? The thought of trying made her stomach twist into knots. It was wrong. She owed the Creator quite a bloody lashing to her back for those lustful dreams. She woke up at the first grey light of dawn through the window, before Sister Scupley entered with the bell that shouted her name. A light rain pattered on the windows. The other novices helped her dress in a white ceremonial gown, with layers of robes. They combed her hair and put a lace veil over her head, enswathed in a sea of veils, all neat and pristine underneath. She and a handful of novices walked, procession-like, into the sanctum, where she took her place on the cushion. The novices stretched out a long, white, silken sheet and put it over her head. Its mass engulfed her. Today, she'd sit underneath it all day long until the hour of her vows arrived. Beyond the silken outer veil's film, the novices split into two groups and proceeded down each side of the room, lighting all the candles in the sanctum. Afterward, they left her alone in there. They'd check on her regularly, but for today, they moved all prayer and sermon sessions to another space. Kalea sat alone with the rain sounds, waiting for her God. A cool grey light from the outside mingled with the warm orange glow of the candles. She had skipped breakfast and gone straight to preparing herself for the ceremony. At least today, the cook would prepare a nice plate of food as a symbolic wedding meal she'd eat alone, in the spiritual presence of the Creator. Eating should rejuvenate her a bit. In the meantime, she'd sit here for 10 hours, keeping as still and straight as possible. She could shift her position once in a while, but the trial would be murder on her joints and muscles nonetheless. The best way to handle it was to meditate, to lose track of time. She closed her eyes and listened for Dorhen, like she had in the cellar last night. It was difficult to believe he'd left her, just like that. Could she blame him? Thinking about it made her choke up, so she thought about the pleasant dreams with him instead. Those thoughts made her body speak back. She opened her eyes. In addition to listening, she could watch for a glimpse of him. Filling her eyes with other things might help to alleviate the erotic thoughts persisting on plaguing her mind. An hour or 2 hours passed before the side door clicked and opened. Soft footsteps tapped toward her. Joy leaned into her sight and whispered, "Do you need any water?" "No, thank you," Kalea whispered back. "All right, I'll be back in another 2 hours. I'm jealous, I'll have you know." Kalea smiled in reaction to Joy's giggle as she practically pranced away. The rain pattered, the first rain in about 2 months. Maybe it would help alleviate the famine. The sanctum glowed with soft orange candlelight, wavering against the blue morning haze from the windows. This place shriveled in comparison to the cathedral in Caradax she'd visited at age 14, when Father Liam had taken the girls on a pilgrimage. But it boasted its own pleasant and simple charm. The thick wooden cruck beams holding up the ceiling were carved with clover-shaped holes, and the stained glass windows were colourful and happy on a sunny day. She used to think she could live the rest of her life here, visiting this room daily. But that was in the past. She focused hard on the room, widening her awareness for any hint at all of an invisible guest. Minutes passed. 30 of them, 60 of them. Who knew how many? She watched. Joy returned. 2-hour check. Would you like a break? She meant a trip to the garderobe. Yes, please. Kalea's bones creaked as she worked up to her feet. Joy drew the outer veil off her head, folding it over. Kalea stretched out her legs and flexed as many joints as she could remember she had. Joy helped her all the way through her break. She accepted a drink of water, and Joy covered her again when they returned to the altar. Back to meditation. Kalea scanned the room, opening her senses and her most acute visual awareness. "Where are you? Come back already, you stubborn elf!" She focused as best she could through the thin silk. Along the left wall, the candle flames bowed over and whipped back as if someone walked swiftly past. She froze. Could it be him, It might have been a draught, though all day the candles had been calm. It was today's first anomaly in their behaviour. It had to be him. "Dorhen," she whispered, "if that's you, please let me know." She waited. No sign came. "I have to talk to you." She listened for any change in the vibrations. The rain tapping against the windows and pattering down on the roof filled the silence, covering any mild scuff or breath. Why did the rain choose to fall on a day like this? "I'm sorry, Dorhen. I don't know if you were in the cellar listening to me last night. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I've been cruel to you. I'm sorry I turned away your generosity." She bit her lip before taking a deep, shaky breath. "I've been having dreams about you. In the dreams, we came close to making love. This happened 2 nights in a row and several times on the first night. I was afraid of the concept of making love, but I'm not anymore thanks to you." She sniffled. "I'm telling such intimate thoughts to thin air." "You saw how I was attacked that day. You saved me. I didn't know why you cared, since you were a stranger. Nonetheless, the attack made me afraid of you too. I thought you tried to take advantage of me in a similar way, and that would be a problem for my process of becoming a Vestal. I have to be a virgin to be a sister of sorrow. I was scared to trust you, that's all. But you know what?" She surveyed the room, searching for any more waving candle flames. "I was told by other people to become a sister of sorrow. They chose my destiny, not me. And I thought it was the best thing for me, too. I never thought I could be happy as a wife and also be a faithful servant of the Creator. I can." She wiped her leaky eyes on her long sleeve. "I love you, Dorhen. It's more than that. I want you for myself. It's a selfish and willful plight. Those dreams I had of us carrying on, I loved them. I want you. I no longer want to be a Vestal. I want to teach you more about reading. I want you to catch fish for me and protect me. If you could please come back, I'll gladly walk out of here with you. Please." A sob escaped her throat, and she swallowed the rest of them, wiping her eyes on her sleeve again. "If you're punishing me, I deserve it. I deserve whatever I get." Keeping count of the hours proved too hard on such a dark, rainy day. Eventually, the windows darkened and the rain gained in weight. If Dorhen indeed spied on her and listened to her speech, he didn't care. He must be rejecting her pleas. He probably wasn't around anymore. He would be a long way down the road now, leaving her where she belonged, in the choking dust of his past. There was no blaming him for leaving her. She'd acted so neurotically toward him all these days. She genuinely was crazy. She belonged in here. Hopefully, her dreams of him would continue through the years to help her through her difficult life of loneliness. A suffering kind of life, masked under the honourable title of celibacy. When the hour of her vow ceremony arrived, cold sweat beaded under her layers of silk. Her eyes darted around the sanctum for an elf who'd rescue her from her marriage to the one Creator. An imaginary elf. Maybe she'd imagined him the whole time due to her mental illness. The rain pounded, and thunder added to the miserable mix. Her hollow stomach groaned. She grew woozy. When it came time to give her speech, the words were lost in the hurricane that used to be her mind. "My honour is solely, I will honour you with all my heart, and the rest of the speech sounded about the same. Once in a while, Father Liam whispered words to help her along, his eyes wide and his lips parted, awaiting every word she could manage to push out. She made an absolute fool of herself. When she finally said the last word, Amen, she sighed and fell to the floor for a low bow to the Creator, as rehearsed. She crawled up the little steps to the altar's dais and kissed the floor sectioned off by a rope around the altar. This space was accessible for the faithful to tend the altar without stepping past the rope onto an exquisite woven rug reserved to be trod upon by the Creator himself. Tears dampened her cheeks by now. She let them out without being too mortified, because crying in the presence of the one Creator was a normal thing to do. She crawled backward to her designated spot and stood again so Father Liam could wrap the official cincture around her hips, a woven belt with a silver-plated Creator's flower medallion at the front. Next, he turned around and took her official Vestal's veil off the little table of objects and held it over her head.
On this sacred evening,
Father Liam recited over a sharp crash of thunder,
I hereby announce Kalea Thridmill, by honor of the one Creator and his...
A crash boomed through the sanctum. The novices screamed and scattered. Kalea fell during the raucous tremor. The ceiling caved in, roaring in a barrage of slate shingles, wood and glass from the skylight. She saw each piece suspended like a messy mobile, frozen in time for a second before disappearing. Darkness followed, as the wind and rain snuffed out all the candles. A cold, wet splash doused her robes.
Everyone be calm,
Father Liam shouted.
Be still!
In her starving state, the excitement made Kalea dizzy again. Her chest rose and fell uncontrollably. Someone tripped over her feet and screamed in pain, a novice. All the novices in the convent must have been shrieking. Sister Scupley commanded, Calm! And some of the voices finally hushed. One of the older Vestals came through the door from the kitchen with a lantern. The new light revealed a gaping hole in the ceiling and rain pounding over the pile of rubble which had once been the roof and part of the skylight. The rain pouring in filled the area with mist, soaking Kalea's clothes. Sharp sounds marked pieces of glass falling from above.
Is anyone hurt?
Father Liam called.
If someone is on the floor, make sure they're all right.
He stepped over to Kalea.
How about you, Kalea? Are you hurt?
No, I don't think so. He took her arm and pulled her up. Her weak hands twitched and trembled.
That damn roof has needed service for a while, but we haven't had the funds.
When she stood on her own, he made his way to the raining pile of rubble.
Bring the light!
Kalea moved closer too, dragging her dress over the broken glass and wrecked pews. The Vestal with the lantern went about, helping other women to relight some of the candles.
Bring some light, hurry!
Father Liam dug through the wreckage, overturning heavy ceiling beams.
Oh, dear Creator.
What is it? Kalea asked, stretching her neck after her dress snagged, ignoring the ripping sounds as she pulled it.
Oh no, please, Creator.
Father Liam's voice dipped low. As Kalea drew closer and the candles gathered together at the rubble, Father Liam knelt and stroked the hair of a novice who had been unfortunate enough to be standing too close to the collapse. Joy! He wiped her soaked hair away from her face. She stared into oblivion. Kalea gasped and covered her mouth. Oh, please! Her voice shook. She gnashed her teeth and soon put a wad of her sleeve between them. Is she? Father Liam was already reciting death rites over Joy with his hand on her forehead.
Amen.
He closed her eyelids.